60 million Americans are under heat alerts today. Heat kills more Americans than any other kind of weather, and it is the one natural disaster the federal government cannot declare a disaster. The law in question is the Stafford Act. It was passed in 1988, and it gives the Federal Emergency Management Agency its authority to respond to major disasters. It lists what counts as one. The list includes hurricane, flood, earthquake, tornado, drought, and wildfire. Extreme heat is not on that list. Here is what that means in practice. After a hurricane, a governor submits a request, and the president declares a major disaster. Federal money follows: assistance to affected households, coverage of medical costs, direct payments to families. For heat, there is no such path. No federal cost share for cooling centers, no help with the electric bills of people who cannot pay them, no disaster status for the deadliest weather in the country. Today, August 19th, the states under alerts are Arizona, Nevada, California, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, and both Carolinas. This is the third heat dome to sit over the central and southern United States in a single summer. Not the third hot week, the third separate dome of high pressure that parked and would not leave. Not one of those states can count on what it would get after a hurricane. To understand the size of that gap, one figure is enough. By federal estimates, heat kills more people in the United States than hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods put together. It is the deadliest weather in the country, and it is the only one with no route to federal help. 31 years ago, a heat wave killed more than 700 people in one American city in a matter of days. The governor of that state asked for federal disaster help and was refused. That refusal and two others that cost people just as dearly are part of this report. The reason for this gap is not anyone's bad intent. It is in how the law was written. The Stafford Act was built around sudden events that break property. A hurricane takes roofs. A flood fills houses. An earthquake collapses buildings. A tornado erases blocks. In that system, damage is measured in destroyed structures. Assessors go out, they count houses, they add up the dollars, and the decision follows the total. Heat does not break buildings. It kills the people inside houses that stay intact. After a heat wave, there is nothing for an assessor to photograph. The house is intact, the roof is on, the walls are untouched, and the person inside is dead. Because the law defines damage in terms of structural harm, deaths do not count in that arithmetic the way houses do. There is a second barrier. The law requires that an event exceed the capacity of state and local government. The agency insists that path is open for heat. Its administrator told a congressional hearing that the Stafford Act does not need to be amended. If a heat response exceeds a state's capacity, she said, a request will be considered. But in practice, no request over heat has ever succeeded. We will come to those cases. There is a third barrier, and it is purely practical. After a hurricane, damage assessment takes days. Count the houses, total the figure. After a heat wave, you have to prove a person died of the heat. That is not established quickly. A heat death is often recorded as a heart attack or as kidney failure. The real toll appears months later when medical examiners compile excess mortality. By then, the event is long over, and there is nothing left to request help for. If you are sitting in a house with no air conditioning right now in Oklahoma or Arizona, subscribe to the channel. We will bring updates on this heat every day until the dome breaks. Efforts to close this gap are underway, and they are not fringe. In 2024, a coalition of labor unions, health organizations, and environmental groups filed a formal 77-page petition with the agency. The signers include the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, the largest labor federation in the country. The petition asks that extreme heat and wildfire smoke be added to the regulatory definition of a major disaster. That would open federal money to state, tribal, and local governments. Money for cooling centers, for protecting people who work outdoors, for air filtration, for standalone power supply. Separately, the attorneys general of several states wrote to the agency with the same request. The National League of Cities and the Conference of Mayors sent letters to Congress. They asked it to pass an Extreme Heat Emergency Act. That bill would write heat directly into the definition of a major disaster. The coalition's argument is simple. During the pandemic, the agency moved quickly to apply the Stafford Act to an event that also broke no buildings. So the mechanism exists. The agency's position has not changed. It considers a change in the law unnecessary. Now, to why this heat kills and why the daytime high is not the number that matters most. The human body handles a hot day if it can cool down at night. Night is when the heart and the blood vessels return to normal, when the body replaces what it lost. That nighttime recovery is the protection everyone relies on without ever thinking about it. What makes a multi-day heat wave dangerous is that it takes that night away. In the Phoenix area and the surrounding cities, tonight's low is forecast near 90 degrees Fahrenheit. When it is 85 degrees outside at 3 in the morning, recovery does not happen. The body starts the next day already carrying the load. By the third day, by the fourth, the reserve is gone. That is why heat kills mostly older people and small children. They have less reserve and their temperature regulation works less well. And that is why having no air conditioning turns from an inconvenience into a fatal factor. The danger arrives at night, not during the day. From that comes a rule worth holding on to all week. Deaths in a heat wave come not on the first day, but on the third and the fourth. The body needs time to run out. So the multi-day forecast matters more here than today's high. And on the current dome, no break is expected before the end of the week. Let's go across the country and look at where it is worse today. Start in the Southwest. The National Weather Service has issued an extreme heat warning across southwest Arizona and southeast California. In the lower Colorado River Valley and in Death Valley, afternoon highs are expected between 115 and 118 degrees. Around Yuma and El Centro, 106 to 114. In the Las Vegas Valley, 107 to 110, and that warning holds through Friday evening. There is a separate warning for the Grand Canyon below 4,000 feet through Thursday evening. At Phantom Ranch, deep in the canyon, temperatures are expected between 107 and 111. The Weather Service office in Flagstaff has a message for day hikers on the Bright Angel Trail. Do not descend more than a mile and a half. Between 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, nobody should be in the canyon. Now the Southern Plains. An extreme heat warning covers central and northern Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, with heat index values up to 110. Across eastern Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas, the index reaches 113. Tulsa, Fort Smith, Muskogee, North Texas separately. The warning covers the entire Dallas and Fort Worth area. The Weather Service office in Fort Worth warns of actual air temperatures up to 108 degrees, the Gulf Coast and southeast. Heat index up to 110 across southern Louisiana and Mississippi, up to 112 around Memphis. Across all of Florida, from the Panhandle to Key West, the index runs 105 to 112. Coastal Georgia and both Carolinas up to 111. A second hazard has been added to the heat in the southwest, and it is worth knowing separately. This evening, blowing dust advisories are in effect across parts of Arizona. The Gila Bend area, northwest Pinal County, the Tonopah Desert, Buckeye, and South Mountain, from 5 to 10 in the evening mountain time. A separate advisory covers the Tucson area, Marana, Vail, and Green Valley from 3 to 10 in the evening. The Weather Service office in Tucson is warning that a haboob could form. A haboob, for anyone who has not seen one, is a wall of dust hundreds of feet high. It is pushed along by the cold outflow ahead of a thunderstorm. It moves fast and it swallows everything. A thunderstorm outflow with winds of 45 to 55 miles per hour can lift that wall and drive it northwest. If dust catches you on the highway, here is the sequence. Pull completely off the pavement. Put the vehicle in park. Set the emergency brake. Turn off every light, including your hazard flashers. Take your foot off the brake pedal. Stay in the vehicle with your seatbelt on. The reason is specific. Drivers inside a dust wall follow whatever lights they can see. If your lights are on at the side of the road, the next vehicle will drive straight into them. Now to the second half of today, because there is a separate story there. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk for severe storms, level 2 out of 5. The word slight is misleading here, and here is why. According to the center, a shortwave trough is sitting over western Kansas, a ripple of energy in the upper atmosphere moving east. At the surface, an extremely moist air mass runs from the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Central Plains. Surface dew points are 68 to 72 degrees. That is tropical humidity in the middle of the Great Plains. And here is the number all of that was leading to. The available energy for thunderstorms over northern Kansas runs from 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kilogram. For comparison, take an ordinary strong summer thunderstorm. It works on values of 500 to 1,500. 2,500 is an exceptionally high charge. That number is worth explaining. It measures the energy stored in a column of air that a storm can convert into motion. The larger it is, the higher the cloud builds, and the harder the strike comes back down. The primary threat corridor runs from northeast Kansas into west central Missouri this evening. Kansas City, on both sides of the state line, sits inside it. Topeka, Lawrence, Ottawa. In Missouri, Jefferson City, Columbia, Sedalia. Severe Thunderstorm Watch number 598 is in effect until 4 in the morning Central Time. It covers 14 Kansas counties and 9 Missouri counties, including Jackson County, which holds the heart of Kansas City. The main threat in the center's assessment is damaging wind. The outlook specifically cites gusts above 75 miles per hour along any organized line segment. 75 miles per hour takes down mature trees, tears out power lines, and flips light vehicles. The second threat is large hail, while the cells are still separate. The third is flash flooding. 2 to 3 inches of rain are expected, locally more where storms run one after another along the same path. That repetition along one path is the main cause of flash flooding. Most of the rain falls overnight and into the Wednesday morning commute. If you are driving in the Kansas City area in the morning, leave extra time. There is one more consequence of this heat that gets very little attention. When tens of millions of people switch on air conditioning at the same time, the load on the power grid runs to its limit. Days like this are when the risk of rolling blackouts appears. Here, it matters to be precise. The United States Department of Energy did issue emergency grid orders for the central part of the country this year. The order covering the Southwest Power Pool ran from July 20th to July 21st, then from July 26th to August 3rd, and it was extended through August 10th. That last order for that operator has expired. As of the department's page, updated on August 14th, there is no newer order for it. The wider picture is no easier for that. Since January, the department has issued 39 emergency grid orders across the country. On August 14th, an order came out for the coal-fired J.H. Campbell plant in West Olive, Michigan. The plant is required to remain available to operate from August 17th through November 14th. It was supposed to close on May 31st of 2025, 15 years before the end of its design life. The order keeping it open has now been extended 3 times this year. Plants in Indiana, Colorado, Washington, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Guam, and Puerto Rico are under the same kind of orders right now. The meaning is simple. Power plants that were supposed to shut down are being kept running by federal order. On days like this, the grid does not have enough without them. If you are in the heat zone, there is one useful thing you can do for your neighbors. Shift your load out of the peak hours. Thermostat at 78. Laundry in the morning or after 8 in the evening. Ceiling fans instead of lowering the temperature. Now to what comes next. Start with Thursday. The storm threat shifts east and south. The Weather Prediction Center has issued a slight risk of excessive rainfall, level 2. The Storm Prediction Center has matched it with the same level for severe storms across the mid-Mississippi Valley. The flash flood threat rises sharply Wednesday night and early Thursday, especially from southern Iowa and northern Missouri across northern Illinois, including the Chicago area, and into southern Wisconsin. That rain lands on ground already saturated by tonight's storms. Urban flooding in Chicago and Des Moines is possible Thursday morning. Thursday brings no relief on the heat. The ridge of high pressure holding the dome in place stays anchored over the Four Corners region. The extreme heat warning for the desert Southwest runs through Friday evening. On Friday, a cold front begins pushing south and brings storm chances to the Mid-South and the Mid-Atlantic. The weekend, August 22nd and 23rd, the ridge slowly expands north into the interior Mountain West and shifts east toward the high plains. Dangerous heat holds across a broad band from the southwest through the southern Central Plains into the lower Mississippi Valley. No meaningful break in the heat is expected in the coming days. Back to the refusals of federal help for heat. Governors have requested it. According to the Congressional Research Service, every one of those requests was denied. There have been 3 in 46 years. The first, 1980. The governor of Missouri filed 2 requests for major disaster declarations over heat and drought. Both were rejected. The most recent, 2022. The governor of California requested a declaration over a heat dome and the wildfires it triggered. The request was denied, and so was the appeal. On the California case, the agency added an explanation. It concluded the request was not really about heat, because the damage had been done by fire. And it gave its own wording. Its practice is to evaluate discrete events and impacts, not seasonal or general atmospheric conditions. That sentence contains the whole problem. To the system, heat is not an event. It is a condition. The difference matters enormously. A hurricane has a beginning and an end, a track and a landfall date. Heat runs for weeks, covers half a country, and has no point you can circle on a map. The system knows how to count what can be circled. Now the second request. July of 1995, Chicago. A heat wave held for several days. By the estimates cited in the Congressional Research Service report, it directly killed more than 700 people, 700 dead in one city. For scale, that is more than Hurricane Andrew killed, the most destructive hurricane of that decade. The dead were mostly older people who lived alone, in apartments without air conditioning, in buildings where windows stayed shut at night. Many were not found for days because nobody had come by. The city morgues filled. Refrigerated trucks had to be brought in to hold the bodies. The governor of Illinois requested a major disaster declaration and was refused. The wording was the same as in the other two cases. The severity and magnitude of the incident were not sufficient to warrant a declaration. 700 dead in a matter of days in the third largest city in the country was not sufficient magnitude. 3 refusals in 46 years, and not one change in the law after them. The petition to the agency was filed in 2024. The answer did not change. The bill went to Congress. It has not passed. So today, with 60 million people under heat alerts, the mechanism is exactly what it was in '95. No federal cost share for cooling centers. No help with electric bills, no disaster status. All of it falls on cities and counties, out of local budgets, often improvised summer after summer. Now the most important part, and I want it separated from all the numbers. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke are different things, and the difference decides the outcome. With heat exhaustion, a person is still sweating. The skin is damp and cool. There is weakness, dizziness, sometimes nausea. In that case, get inside, lie down, sip water. With heat stroke, it is the opposite. The skin is hot, red, and dry, and the sweating has stopped. Confusion sets in, speech slurs, the person may lose consciousness. Heat stroke is a medical emergency. Call 911 immediately. Do not wait to see whether the person improves. Time decides everything here. While help is coming, move the person into shade or indoors. Remove extra clothing and cool them. Cool water on the skin, ice at the neck, the armpits, and the groin. Do not give fluids if they are confused. Now about air conditioning. If you do not have it or the power went out, do not stay home to wait it out. Go to a cooling center. In Maricopa County, Arizona, the number 211 will tell you the nearest one, where to get water, and how to get there. Now about the car. Never leave children or animals in a closed vehicle. Not for a minute, not with the windows cracked. The interior on a hot day reaches 130 to 140 degrees. For a child or a dog, that is fatal within minutes. Now about the road. If you are driving a highway in heat like this, water in the car is not optional. A broken down vehicle on a Texas highway at 108 degrees becomes a threat to life very quickly. And about neighbors. Check on older people who live alone, especially those without air conditioning and those who depend on medical equipment that plugs into the wall. That is exactly how people died in Chicago, and exactly what one visit can prevent. Here is the day in short. 60 million people are under heat alerts. Extreme heat is not on the Stafford Act list of major disasters. All 3 requests by governors for such a declaration were denied, including the request over Chicago in 1995. Overnight lows near 90 degrees in the Phoenix area stop the body from recovering. That is what makes a multi-day heat wave lethal. Tonight adds blowing dust in Arizona and thunderstorms with gusts above 75 miles per hour across Kansas and Missouri. No meaningful break in the heat is coming before the end of the week. The point of this report is not to frighten you with numbers. It is that with heat, federal help does not arrive the way it arrives after a hurricane. The response falls on cities and counties, often out of local budgets, summer after summer. So knowing where your nearest cooling center is and knocking on an older neighbor's door today is doing exactly what the system does not. For current alerts, go to the Weather Service site. For cooling centers, use your local information line. At the first signs of heat stroke, call 911. We will be back tomorrow morning with new numbers. Take care of yourselves.